This is an attempt at my first fly tying video. So what I'm going to tie is a balance leech. This is one of my top 2 favorite colors, white, pretty simple. Going to start off with a size 8 Panic 400 BL. Awesome hook, barbless as well, so some of the places you're fishing. This is what I tie all of my flies on for, or all my leeches on, pardon me, for Pyramid, because it is a barbless lake. So start off by just putting down a thread base and then come back just a hair. And then what I have here for pins is just a normal sequin pin. I just bought it at a craft store. This brand's called Loops and Thread, and this is a size 12 millimeter. So I like it this little shorter size because I don't have to clip the hook. I don't know if you can see this. I don't have to clip the hook. It already comes at the exact length I want it. And then I use these fire hole beads in a 3.5 or a 4 millimeter. I use the 3.5 on this so I can add a little bit of length to the hook. But the 4 millimeter will work still with these pins. And I will tell you that with these skinnier pins, if you do go buy this exact brand of pin, you're gonna have some trouble with some other bead heads. It will slide through and you'll have some annoying troubles. But with the fire hole bead specifically, they have a smaller hole, it seems, and I really love their colors too, so that's a bonus. So the distance I put between this is basically a bead's distance when using a 3.5, and it'll have what I consider a perfect balance, and you'll see that towards the end here. So basically what I do is I get that on there by just tying down a quick thread base, laying down the pin, and then tying over it. And then once I get to right there, I actually will bring in a little bit of super glue, and I'll tie down some super glue here. I got marabou flying all over the place. And I'll put just a little bit of super glue on just to help secure this. I've yet to have one come out, but it just mainly helps when you're tying. It'll keep that from falling around here. I just lost my tip of that, so I'll have to find that. Alrighty. And then I'll come back over the top of this and I'll do one more layer over the top of this. And then I'm going to come between here and I'll kind of do some angle back this way, wraps, and then I'll wrap all the way up to the tip, and I just go over this basically twice so it has a nice base. And then I'll come back over the top of that super glue again, not necessarily touching wraps, just making sure I get it nice and covered up. The super glue will dry pretty quick, especially if you're using the Craggle. So, and then this is just some basic marabou. I think this is actually just from Sportsman's. Sometimes I tie with the Nature Spirit, but this pack I got of the Sportsman stuff is real fluffy, and I like that quite a bit. So I'm going to kind of pluck some of this off. Kind of blow some of it out of my way here. And then I will get this ready. I go about the same size, maybe just a hair longer on these as far as the overall length from tip to end. I'll put that on there. Secure the marabou. Take it back just to right about there. Come forward on it. Now I will stop right where that pin comes to, because that way there's no shelf at all. Sorry if you're seeing all hands there. That way it will stop, and then you'll get a nice flat all the way through. And then I'll get my hands a little bit wet and I'll get that marabou out of the way. And then from here it's actually really simple. You're actually almost done. So the next step is going to be just dubbing, and then we're going to tie it off. So all I'm doing is just putting down a few thread wraps, kind of secure this up, and then I come back to right here and then I'm going to throw a dubbing loop. So if you don't know how to throw a dubbing loop, it's super easy. Pull your finger, give yourself, I'd say give yourself about 5 to 6 inches. Do one wrap over and then come back in front of yourself. And then that way you can tie in this loop, and it's already closed off at the bottom if you can see that. And then I'll tie it back there. And this bobbin is loud because I believe it's, what is that material that they put in the tip of these? I can't remember what it is. And then I throw just a quick half hitch in here, and then put this on my bobbin cradle. So do bear with me here because this is my first video. So once I've made this dubbing loop, I stick with my original dubbing loop tool. A lot of people have upgraded. I will eventually upgrade. But I guess it is good for everyone to see that you can still tie with just normal stuff. And then the color I use on this is actually an Arizona Diamond Dub in a light cream. It is some super cool stuff, super shiny, almost like a minnow belly. But the reason I like it is because these fibers are short. So as you see me pull this apart, it stays pretty short, and when you use a lot of their dubbing, it seems to be a little bit stronger and or a little bit longer and stringier, which I feel like will have some negative effects once you throw in the dubbing loop. So you'll end up trimming and doing stuff like that anyway. So I get it kind of placed, and then I start sliding it up in there. Once you get it in your dubbing loop, then you can kind of manipulate some of the clumpier stuff here and get it all up in there. I like to get it as even as possible. Not the end of the world if it's not. And then I take a little bit of this hairline ice dub in just pink. This is in a dispenser that is actually under my camera right now, so it's super easy to find though. It's probably one of the more popular colors is the pink or the shrimp pink. This is just the regular pink in UV, and this is going to just be more of a collar once I wrap it all in. So I pull that, and then I put that also in this dubbing loop. So now that everything's in my dubbing loop, I'm going to begin to spin this. Oop, almost lost that. And then I'll spin it, and then as you see me spin this, you'll see it kind of clump up in some spots and not in others. You can kind of play with this until you get it too tight. And then once you get it a little bit fatter, then I'll even come in with my fingers and I'll pluck out some of the thicker spots, just because it gets most of it out. And then once you get to there, you can come in with a little dubbing brush. I think these Stonfo brushes are legit. And then I'll come in and pretty aggressively. You can't really break 140 with this. Another good reason to tie with it. Do a couple good brushes, twist it again, do a good couple brushes. So that again, the reason I like this length is because you can see it's actually a really good length once you brush it out. Sometimes that longer stuff, when you brush it out, it gets the hair too long, and I really just don't like how long it is. And like I said, I end up trimming it from right here. So if you are using some longer stuff, you can come in, and I like to trim it on the loop, because that way when you wrap it, not really trimming this one, but if you do, then when you wrap it, it'll stay in. And then I'll just use the rotary function here, and I will do touching turns the whole way, and then I'll occasionally pull it backwards just to keep it nice and fluffy. Watch out for your hook point, because I just poked myself, so. And then I'll wrap forward, pull back, wrap forward, and then when you get to right here where the eyelet is, you're gonna kind of angle it back in. So once you get on top, angle it back, fill in that spot, angle it back, and then that pink will start coming in, and you can kind of go over the top of it a few times. And I'm going to back it off one turn here. I'm going to tie it in right there, just because I like to give myself a decent place to put down a thread base. And what I do when I'm using these pins so they don't bend when I do the wraps, I pull on the dubbing loop and the thread at the same time, and I'm really getting after it. I put my thumb on the thread here, and I pull opposite, and it really cinches it down. And then once I do that 2 or 3 times, then I can unhook that dubbing loop, pull it back, put in a few wraps, and then really cinch that down. And now I can go ahead and trim this out. So we're basically done now. I'm going to still throw in a couple tight more little wraps, and then I will come in with a whip finisher and do just a quick 2. And then I will also Do another one. 3. Boom. And then I will brush this all out once I snip that off. Make it nice and frayed. Then I'll start brushing it back. Now it looks a little fluffy, but I can assure you in the water this goes real nice and streamlined. So I tie them nice and fluffy, get it back, and then the fastest way for me to show you the balance is just on this little whip finishing tool. So if you see, it's slightly kicked back, but this fluffy marabou actually floats in the water and it'll bring it up a hair. So there you go. There's just a classic balance leech, and this is in my favorite color scheme probably of 2019 so far. So hope you enjoy.